Turnout here. We welcome you to our seminar, Harnessing the Power of Today's Communication Tools. I want to share with you that the panelists that we have, my name is Zan Martin. I'm President and CEO of Martin & Company Advertising. This is my 28th SEMA show in a row. And yes, I started when I was 5 years old. We also have Luanne Brown, and she is the founder and president of Etool Developers. Stacey David, TV host, producer, builder extraordinaire. Chad Reynolds, co-founder, personality of Bangshift.com. Jeff Lee, who is digital marketing director for Martin & Company Advertising. Jeff Nasi, who is senior director of digital and integrated sales with the Enthusiast Network. And Marla Moore, who is director of marketing for the Coca Group. There's one other person that I really want to recognize. Her name is Holly Krozel. If you'll stand, Holly. Holly is Vice President and General Manager of Martin & Company, and she's Chief Executive of this presentation. Without her diligent research, we wouldn't be here today. Our agenda is to talk about the seismic shift in the marketing landscape. I do want to underscore just for a second that I didn't start out with the desire to put together a seminar here at SEMA. We started out recognizing that the world has changed in a huge way, and I suspect that's the reason most of you are here, what's going on out there. And so as we dug deep and looked at the changes that are going on in our industry, I realized that our entire association is probably asking the same questions and might not have the resources that an agency does. So I got in touch with the education director of SEMA, and they agreed that this is really an important topic. So I'm glad that we were able to be here and present it. Considering that we have such a powerhouse panel, I know that you're going to walk away with a lot of great stuff. So to move right along, we're going to tell you about what it is that you need to communicate, where to communicate from these best practices from these panelists of experts. And then we're lucky to have Marla, who's a recent SEMA Person of the Year, to share a case study of how Coca Group has been able to take advantage of this changing trend. And then we'll do a three-step summary. So before I move on, I just want to ask or share with you that and Marla, I think you'll agree with me, and any of you out there who are marketing directors that have put marketing plans together, just a few 2 or 3 years ago, we could pretty much put a plan together with our eyes closed. And there was a tried and true program, print and TV and web, and all of that really works. And it's not so much the same anymore. So we will share with you all of these shifts. And before I move along, I just want to ask you, show of hands, how many people out there have attended a boring PowerPoint seminar where you kind of maybe walked away with something? Wow. Well, this isn't going to be one of those. And the reason is because we work in an industry that is fun, don't we? We really, really love going to work in a fun industry. But, you know, marketing, maybe the marketing side of the business is not so fun anymore. Maybe you feel just like when you've got it figured out, the rules change. And we agree, the rules are changing. And you know why? Maybe because marketers ruin everything. As marketers, actually, we tend to get stuck. But the attention of the consumer has changed. And that is what is changing the rules. And I really want to underscore that. The change is really, really coming about because consumer behavior is changing. You know, it's 2014, and 99% of people still market like it's 2004. So we want to talk to you today about communicating with our consumers like the year that it actually is. One of my favorite slides. 75% of Americans admit to bringing their phone to the bathroom. Then we had magazines sitting in the bathroom. Now we got tablets or phones. So if everybody will be honest, how many of you take your smartphone to the bathroom with you? And
how many use the bathroom while you're talking on it? Don't do that.
So that leads me to the next question. How many of you have actually lost the phone in the commode? Any of you out there that think I have your phone number? I don't have it anymore, so give it back to me. I can't believe you asked that question. Only out of Stacey's mouth, or Chad.
Hey, you just beat me too.
I know we've seen people do it. I just saw somebody doing it. It's like, hang it up, dude. Come on.
All right, so now we're going to sort of segue into the challenge that you're experiencing right now. Consumers are shutting off the traditional world of marketing. Why? Because technology makes it easier to just skip right past your message. We've all seen the recent changes in our industry. I mean, in reality, Jeff Nasi, you've been with Peterson, Prime Media, Source, now the Enthusiast Network for almost 2 decades. And just recently you've seen a slew of magazines go away. And Stacey, you've been doing television for a couple of decades, and you've seen an entire network go away. And the reason that some of these things are happening is because consumer behavior is shifting. They expect to find their answers right now. I want it, and I want it now. So tried and true marketing techniques just no longer have the same impact that they used to. But there is a new opportunity, and that new opportunity is online search and changing consumer behavior. What's happening is the number of Google searches is growing by double-digit rates. This year, they've changed their algorithms to enhance open-ended question search, all making it more likely that you can also be found on your own website. So in all the research that Holly had been doing along with Jeff Lee, our digital marketing director, she had an aha moment through some of the data that she found, and I want to share what that is. So as marketers, we've learned to capture attention where people search for information. Traditionally, that meant picking top magazines, TV shows, or websites to send our press releases and nurture our editorial relationships. Jeff, Stacey, Chad, you know all about that, nurturing those editorial relationships. So let's say people want to know about carburetors. They pick the magazine, website, or TV show that should have that information. If we did our jobs right, they read about our product in a build or feature article or see it in a TV product integration or segment. But now, instead of trying to decide which publication or show will be the most likely to contain the information they want and then look for it, more and more people are going directly to Google. And even the way they Google is changing. And here's the exciting part, guys. Google is being shown on page 1 of search. They're also working to improve click-through rates for paid search. So now, instead of keywords, consumers type in open-ended questions like how to clean a carburetor. So thanks to Google's ever-changing way to handle that question, up pop organic search articles to answer it based on the value of the information the article contains. So here is the point. Now we also get to publish information on our own websites because people are searching more online and Google will help find it. When you publish information people are searching for, relevant, informative, valuable, it doesn't have to be on a specific popular publication. This new marketing opportunity is called content marketing. How many of you are familiar with that term? Content marketing, you've been hearing it? A lot of people that we've talked to is like, I've kind of heard about it, I'm not really sure, and folks like Marla, who are implementing it, have studied and learned, and that's what we're trying to help you get to. Content marketing is publishing and promoting relevant information on your own website. So when consumers are searching for answers, they find it from you. I want to give you an example. And here, right on this Google search, Holly, how many weeks ago was it that you searched how to clean a carburetor?
It was probably a few months ago.
A few months ago. So she typed in the open-ended question, how to clean a carburetor. And in this example, the top article on cleaning a carburetor is published by Instructables.com. Has anybody heard of Instructables.com? I haven't. They aren't even car related. But this article was published 4 years ago and has almost 500,000 views. What if that article was published on your site? Would you like to drive 500,000 visits from people looking for information specific to your product? Well, today you can. So I'm going to slide right into search, master of the universe. In 2014, we learned that content may be king, but the online search engine is the master of the universe. Content only works when people find it, read it, and share it. So this slide was my aha moment. I want to share with you why. We're talking about defining the intersection between brand communication and customer communications. So the sphere on the left is what the brand must effectively communicate. The sphere on the right is what the customer wants to learn and will share. And you're going to hear that several times. What the customer wants to learn and will share. And the intersection between the two, that is what drives your content marketing strategy. So let me explain why this was my aha moment. For more than 20 years, I've worked with manufacturers developing marketing strategies. One of them just walked in the door. Matt Graves was with Cherry Bomb, and we relaunched that brand in a huge way, and we did it the same way I'd been doing it for a lot of years. We focused on features and benefits and unique selling propositions and building of the brand, taking advantage of that iconic brand that had been out there for so long. I'm sure many of you have probably launched your own businesses and were overwhelmed, wondering how you could compete with well-established brands. Well, today, it's not that daunting because of this new opportunity. Consumers want to know why, and they want to know how. It's not anymore about what we want them to know, but what they want to know and will share. So if you understand that intersection right here, learn everything you can about understanding that intersection that's relevant to your products. There's your content marketing plan. It can be a blog, it can be video, it can be white papers, press releases, the list goes on and on. The more you share that is relevant, the more brand ambassadors you're going to cultivate who will also share your stories. So I love this quote. It says, "The potential customer needs evidence that we understand their problem better than they do before they will buy, share, or recommend us." So in summary of my aha moment, you've got to publish relevant information so when consumers are searching for answers, they will find them from you. Relevant, informative content is the gear that drives your self-published inbound marketing and your advertising/editorial, which is referred to as outbound marketing. We talked to you about self-publishing content and how it is a way to reach consumers that traditional marketing is not. Traditional marketing, don't get me wrong, still reaches consumers, and it is evolving too. So that's why we brought this panel of experts together to help you understand how best to get your message across in each of their forms of media today. They'll tell you what changes have happened and best practices for working in their media channel. First, let's hear from our expert on website development, Luanne Brown. With all this talk about driving people to your website, you'll definitely want to be prepared to handle it.
Thanks, Ann. As Ann said, my name is Luanne Brown. I own a company called Etool Developers. All we do is automotive aftermarket. I've been doing this for 14 years, and so we've kind of grown up with the industry as far as website development. I'm going to talk today about building a foundation before you start doing all of this wonderful content marketing. You need kind of a foundation. I'm going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure, the platforms or the systems that you build your sites on. Also about data, product information, how important it is that your information is current and up to date, and our industry has been working very hard on these standards to help our manufacturers do that. And also I'm going to talk about building responsive sites, sites that respond to whatever device they're being displayed on. I found these two graphics up on the web to kind of explain where I was coming from with the infrastructure, how it's really important to have sound hardware and software for you to build out your websites and tools that you utilize to serve your video and other content that you are sending out on the internet. And so the infrastructure is really the hardware, and the platform or content management system is the software that you would put this content marketing into to serve it. And then the information architecture, how to lay it out to where people can find it. And of course, the content's kind of the top layer, and links, SEM, and social is the icing on the cake. But I want to explain something kind of funny about this world of digital marketing and how we have two factions. We have IT people. They think kind of how the graphic is on the left. You know, even more so would be like a flow chart. But that's kind of where their mind's at. And this on the right is how marketers think. So you can kind of see we've got these two different factions that have to work together that have got the same goals, but it's really a struggle for a lot of companies, for a lot of larger companies. IT guys think everybody's an idiot, and marketing people have no clue what IT people are even saying, so it's complicated. But I just wanted to share the point that you really should have sound systems in order to deliver all this content and serve it onto the web. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about data. Data is your product information. All your parts, weights, measures, images, video, application information, manuals, all of that stuff that you have to wrap around your products is data. And our industry has created standards, recipe for how you order your information. Field 1 is maybe part number. Field 2 is how much it weighs. So that's all it is order your information like this. That's what PIES is. ACES is the application information. ACES is a big database of every vehicle ever built, make, model, year, 2-door, 4-door, whatever it is, what submodels were there, and all that information is sitting there, so you can take your product information and associate it to the application information. So when somebody comes to your site to buy something and they say, hey, I have a 2010 Ford F-150, we can pull up all the parts that that manufacturer makes that fits that vehicle, because our industry has finally created these standards for us to do that. And then conversely, you can export those formats and give them to trading partners like Amazon and things like that. So it's really important for us to create these standards so we can get our data out and people can upload them into their systems. This is actually Hedman Header's data. PIES right now has upwards of almost 280 fields of information for each part. SEMA's data co-op's doing about 29 fields of information for every part, because circle track guys don't care about make, model, year. So it's kind of a little bit of different space here. So I encourage you to go get involved with the data co-op if you've not done that so far. They can help you get this organized. So that's really all I wanted to show in this image, was just, organizing so you can serve it. And we do this so we can connect this to a website, we can connect it to internal systems, we can give it out to trading partners, but we have to have a place to kind of like, a repository, a core for us to put this information. So it is really fundamental. If you don't know what you're selling, you can't sell it. And, in the old days, people used to sit in the bar and write their part numbers on a napkin. You can't do that anymore. Nobody will take it. Next thing I'm going to talk about is responsive sites. This is a big deal right now because we know probably half the people are looking you up on their phones. And they're out in their cars and they want to find you quick. So responsive sites are sites that you build, and in the code goes and checks what device you're using and what browser is on that device, so it knows how to display it. So this site goes and says, oh, this is an iPad, we got to set it up like this. Oh, this is mobile, here's a Samsung Note 3, this is how we're going to display it, and then of course a normal monitor. My advice is that your mobile site is specific to what information somebody wants to find out in their car. They want to find your speed shop right now, where to get your part right now. So they don't want all this crapola that you would normally have on your site. You just got to make it kind of, down and dirty, specific information. What call to action do you want? Do you want them to find your part right now and go buy it? That's usually the case when they're out looking in their car. So that's really extremely important. And it's a really big deal right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Luanne, and, you know, she has been doing this for a lot of years, and I have the utmost respect for her. So if you have any website questions that we didn't get answered, we don't have anybody up next behind us. We are gonna have some Q&A time, so be sure to recognize that some of these guys can be tapped a little bit afterwards. So at this time, I would like to call up Stacey David. He's gonna talk to you a little bit about what's going on with television.
Thank you. Everybody having a good SEMA? Kind of nice to sit down, isn't it? Come on, be honest, man. I didn't want to get off that chair. Television. Let's talk about that a little bit. It's part of our culture. It's all around us. Whether you're watching your favorite TV show, whether you're watching something on YouTube, whether you're watching something off of Facebook, somebody sent you a piece of video, it's all around us. Because we've all grown up with an aunt or an uncle or a father or a cousin stuck a camera in your face and said, hey man, do something funny. Which is usually when you did something really stupid. But it's around us everywhere. So the question is, how do you make it, how do you make it work for you? Well, the only way to get that across is to show you how it actually works. And the only way to tell you that is how it used to work. So we're going to go through the kind of the history of television and advertising real quick. Back in the day, if you wanted to get involved with television at all, you got with a marketing agency, you came up with some sort of commercial, hopefully some sort of slick slogan. You bought commercial time on television, you put it out there and prayed that you sold a lot of product based off of that. Company had some wheat cereal, didn't have any sweeties, didn't have anything sugary or nice or Tony the Tiger, but they called it Wheaties and called it the Breakfast of Champions, and it became a legend because they put a sports figure on it. Coca-Cola. Can anybody tell me the slogan for Coca-Cola? One of the many. It's the real thing. How about Kentucky Fried Chicken? Finger licking good. That came out decades ago. The guys built empires off of that. So there's still a place for that. There's still a place to get into television through regular commercials, but today it's changed a lot. Most people want in-show content. So we're going to show you how it can work for you. This, for example, is what we call, on our particular type of show, and there's other shows that do it too, this is what we call a product inclusion. This would be something where we would go, we'd lay the product out on the table, we talk about it, but that's it. We tell the benefits, the features, and basically what it is. It's the cheapest way to get involved with a television show, and it's a great way to launch a product, or it's a great way to relaunch something that might have gotten a little stagnant. We don't install it, not a lot of time involved with it, great way to get your company out. The next step would be what we call a product install. Now you can see I'm busy doing something here. Now that's a little more expensive because then I'll actually take the product, lay it out, and I'll install it on a project. So you'll see it go in, you'll see what it does, and you'll actually see the benefits of it, and hopefully we'll take it out and hammer on it, smoke the tires. Obviously that's gold. For a sponsor or somebody that wants a product on the show, that's gold. Because it actually shows what your product does, how it goes on, and how to use it. Those kind of spots can get kind of expensive, and a lot of shows like ours can't do a lot of them. So that's not always the case. You may not have that option. And the important thing here with these is you guys have to decide what's going to work best for you. Don't listen to anybody at the networks or at the agencies. You have to decide because you know what your product is, you know what your budget is. Now, the third style is something like this. This is what we call a feature segment. Now, this is me playing with James Burton, a legendary guitar player. We did a whole segment on him because it gave him a chance to pitch his charity. It gave him a chance to launch a business that he's got. It gave us a chance to introduce him to a whole nother generation and show that he was a car guy. Now, we've done these kind of stories for Speedway Motors when Speedy Bill, we were lucky enough to get him before he died. K&N, we did stuff with Cherry Bomb. Can be extremely important. And the reason being is today, what you say about your company used to be important. Back when he said finger licking good, Colonel Sanders said, my chicken's finger licking good. Well, you took him at his word. Well, now people are like, chicken wasn't so great. I'm going to tell my buddies it sucked. So word of mouth has become more important than what you say about yourself. So it's really important that you put it out there who you are. That's where these kind of segments become real important, because a person, you know, and when they know who you are, how many think it's important to know where the products are made? Overseas, America, you think that's important? Sure you do. Why do you want to know that? Because you want to be able to relate to the person that's pitching the product. If it's just a no-name person, you're thinking, it's fake, it's bad. Why do you think they have greeters at Walmart? Because you got your grandpa there, man. It's like, hey, come on into Walmart. This is a cool place to be. That's why they do it. And that's the kind of approach that you have to think about with marketing when people are looking, you know, to say something about you. Now, that's all great. All these things, you know, this hasn't changed a lot, because when you have this kind of editorial, when you've invested in that, it airs on the shows, and that hasn't changed. What has changed is that now you can take this video that you've invested money in, and you can put it on YouTube. You can put it on your website. You can put it out on your own social media. That stuff lives forever. The money you invested in, you don't have to depend on our show or on, in our case, Velocity or whatever, to air the show for you to get marketing out of it. You can take that and do whatever you want with it because you've invested in it. Now, you may be saying, well, I don't really get why that's important. So let me ask you a question. Show of hands. How many are currently walking around with the television set? Nobody carrying a Magnavox, their flat screen with you? Nobody carrying one? How many have some sort of electronic device like this that you can watch video on? Come on, show of hands. Come on, don't be shy. Come on, everybody's got one. You know you do. Everybody raising their hand. Everybody that's got one of these things, somebody could have just watched your video and forwarded it to all their friends. That's what's changed. Thank you.
Because he's a humble man, is that when you're investing in shows like Stacey David's GearZ, you've got someone who has got a reputation that is so stellar that you're working with a company that is helping to legitimize your product because a respected expert out there is testing it and talking about how great it is. So thanks a lot, Stacey. And now we're going to turn it over to Jeff Nasi, who is a Senior Director of Digital Marketing for the Enthusiast Network. Coming up, Jeff.
Note to Zan, next time I don't want to follow the charismatic TV host that speaks publicly for a living. Okay, put him at the end so we all look a little better coming up. So, all right. I've been in print and digital and event media for a really long time. I got a lot to say, so I'm going to make it really fast. I'm going to do my best not to interject any profanity, so wish me luck, all right? I've been, our company and all of our competitors out there, there's a lot of magazines. Print is often something that we get talked about. How are you guys doing? Is that all right? Are you guys going away? No, actually, print is very healthy right now. There has been a lot of contraction. Ourselves and our competitors have eliminated some titles, but in general, it's to reinvest in the titles that we do have and make them much better. It's actually a very healthy industry to be in if you're vertical and you're not into news print media. And you'll also find that ourselves and a lot of our competitors are investing back into the product in larger package sizes, better paper, better photography, and all that kind of stuff. And what's really interesting about that is we and they are charging more for it. And it's shocking that people will pay a lot more for their magazines. That's because magazines deliver something different. I'm not here just to tout how great they are, but there's a reason they exist. There's a lot of credibility that goes with print. There's a lot of credibility that goes with TV. Anybody can be online, but not everybody else can be in those. So that being said, here's some best practices for print. Remember why people read them and act accordingly. So when you're running an ad in a magazine, don't try to sell somebody something right away. Think about intrinsically how you read magazines when you were younger within your respective industry and why you were reading that, and talk to those people that way. Don't worry so much about the phone numbers you get off of an ad and the deal you're running, the Black Friday sales and all that kind of stuff. Remember that these guys are in the funnel and they're reading this for a reason. Look at all the stuff out in the halls out here. There isn't anything out here at SEMA that you really need. That stuff that you have to have. It's all fun stuff, it's all disposable, and you know what? Arguably, most of it's pretty expensive. Almost everything out there is going to have a path to purchase and a gestation period and planning and all that kind of stuff. So when someone's reading a magazine, they're looking through that, talk to them that way. Tell, don't just sell. Everybody's always trying to sell, everybody's trying to measure something, but you know what? If I'm looking at a $1,100 fuel injection system, I'm not just gonna roll out of bed and buy that. I want to have a fantastic reach into the industry. So if you're in the sport or the sport truck industry or the street rod industry, the chances are you probably read that magazine that covers that industry. A lot of the ads that are ran in the magazines today are done for that wholesale reach. The last thing, and I'm gonna repeat this a lot, so just get ready, know your customer's path to purchase. One of the best things that you can do when you get back home with your team, your marketing guy, your sales guys, is close the doors, pull the blinds down. You guys need to sit down and have a blue sky meeting and think and talk about how your top 3 customer profiles find their way to buy your product. I can guarantee you nobody rolls out of bed and buys this stuff. There's a path to it. There's timing, there's people saving up, there's what we call, my colleague over here, Kathy gave me this phrase, paycheck periods. How many paycheck periods do people go through before they buy their product? Heck, there's the surgery they have to do on their car. You know, you may buy a transmission, but when you take the car down to do that, it has to be planned. So think about that funnel and how people walk through and end up at your doorstep. Not so much where they bought it, but think about where they went before they bought it. That's a great segue to digital. I've been in digital 5 years now after I left print. It's fantastic, but it's a very deep, dark, black pool. And I would say that because when digital came out, to your credit, back in the day doing a marketing plan was pretty easy for all of us being you guys and us. It was print, events, and a little bit of TV. But now with digital, it's a big, dark, black lake out there. And I would say that the average IQ of people out there doing marketing dropped inherently just because it's so complex. And the biggest problem that we see in digital today, I've had this conversation 20 times in the last 2 days, is the fact that people buy measurability and not results. And that's because Google and search in general has become the cash register of the grocery store. I didn't think that up, it's a great analogy, my predecessor did, but I use it a lot. And if you think about it, Google really is the cash register of the grocery store, but that research, that path to purchase, what are my keywords here? The discovery, the research, and the selection of a product or a product type isn't done at the grocery store. It's done in the aisles, it's done in the parking lot. In fact, it's a lot of times it's not even done at the grocery store itself. So you intimately have to be there when these people are doing this and not just waiting by the cash register to sell somebody something or introduce it to them when they do that. It's a problem. In fact, many times we joke with some of our advertisers, it's like, God, you're just buying click-through ratios and measurement. You're not even really looking for sales. It's an epidemic. Best practices for digital, I've sort of said this already, but be very cognizant of your overall marketing picture, how you want to appear to people, not just at the bottom. Don't wait to that last minute to do that. Your ad creative should be adjusted for that. Tell, don't sell, provide a benefit to the reader. I'll give you a great example. I was sitting there with Gail Banks. Many of you guys know him, Mr. Dr. Diesel, very famous guy in the industry. And we're talking about ads that he's running, Black Friday, this and that. He's beating me up over click-through ratios and stuff he's trying to sell. And I was like, God, Gail, all of your stuff is like $300, $400, $500 up to $1,000, and you're worried about stopping and selling somebody something right then? I mean, you got to engage these people. People not only need to discover and learn about your stuff, but they need a little bit more on that. And I said, what's a hot topic in your segment right now? What do people talk about on the forums? What are people talking about out in the parking lots and all that kind of stuff? And he said, it's intercooler size. It's just like the carburetor wars back then. There was a lot of people that were buying carburetors that were too big. It was a male ego thing. They had to have 750 double pumpers, and they weren't buying 660 center squirters, what they should. He says, God, it's become this battle of people just, whoever can make the biggest inlet and outlet on intercoolers. And I said, you should go buy the URL, Truth About Intercoolers, and market it just that. Now think about that. Now as somebody's going through, whether it's a magazine or whether it's a website, and they see that, now you're offering something to that guy. You're providing him a value. You're not trying to sell him something. You're bringing them in. They see that ad, and they're like, God, that's topical. I want to learn about that. And so Gail ran that campaign. They had a lot of success with it in print. They had a lot of success with it online, but it wasn't trying to sell them right then. It's a very expensive product, and he was offering something to these people. He was providing a benefit instead of trying to extract one. So think about that. Everybody here, whatever segment you're in of the market out there, there's something topical right now. It's, torque converters, it could be stall speed, you name it, there's something out there. This is your chance, to your point, this is your chance to go out and offer somebody that you have a way to get smarter and educate them on that and do it on your site. And not to get too far off subject, Don't just wait for somebody to walk into the spider web to react and offer that to them. Go out and push that out. Push that message out there. Don't wait for somebody to have that epiphany to ask Google the question. Here's a big deal. I'll make this quick. We run into this all the time. Don't buy the media that you know and like, or just that. In fact, if you guys have marketing directors that report to you, you should all sit down with them and really look up their skirt, so to speak, and see what they're buying. And you'll be shocked to find out that most of the time they're buying the media, the website, or the magazine, or the event that they're the closest with. People buy what they know, they buy what they like. They should be buying what's correct for them. It's a very big problem in the industry. Social media, real quick on that. You guys all have Facebook feeds along the lines of the other marketing points that I've made. Don't spoil that audience that is reading your feed by trying to sell them something. Go out there and reward some of your customers. Do a feature on a customer that's using your product and give all the credit to them. Write some great tips and engagement and things that are going on out there. If you're in the battery tender business, post something on there like the top 3 mistakes people make with battery tenders and how to avoid them. Just don't try to sell them. Bring them in like that. You'll find that your social audience is going to be much more engaged with you. You'll see that the engagements on your post remain high if you don't commercialize yourself. And the last, like I said, I was going to repeat this a lot, know your customer's path to purchase. The most important thing. Next, I want to talk about sponsored content. It's often called native advertising. It's the biggest thing in the world right now. The biggest thing in advertising will always be there, but things are changing. Technology's changing. The way ads on websites are changing. And this is a really big deal right now. This is a fantastic quote to kick this off. Nobody reads advertising. People read what they want to read, and sometimes it's an ad. This is your chance to really get out and engage with people and not just try to sell them something. It's also very great, and I'm very outspoken about this. Instead of just being that spider in the web and waiting for search until somebody mentions something and you pouncing on them with your Google search results, go out there, get out of the web and do some conquesting. Go out there and populate the top of that funnel. This is what sponsored content is. You'll see the popular ads that are run on many sites all around the world over there. But in a nutshell, what sponsored advertising is paid editorial headlines. So you see this one I highlighted right here. This is Strange Engineering. This is a editorial headline, it's a headline that runs right in our content well. It's written just like the editorial headlines. We are a stand-up company, as anybody is doing sponsored content out there. It does say sponsored or promoted on it. We're not going to try to trick the reader. But once you click on that headline, it goes to a page that's within the site that contains quite a bit of information there. There's videos and pictures and copy and all that kind of stuff, hence the word native. You're not leaving to go to your site. You're entertaining that person within that. This is really fantastic because here's a chance for Strange. What this has really done is force Strange to write a better ad creative, force Strange to write almost like editorial people do, whether it's our sites or anybody else's out there. These are some of the results from it. Let me back up again on this. I had a point I was missing. So anyways, the key point here, and what this has forced the industry to do, and it's taken over our company and a lot of different industries out there again, it's forced people to write something that's more engaging and to grab people better rather than just say, hey, I'm Coney Shocks and I'm the best. You'll find that they're writing more like we are, the editorial staffs. So here's some of the stats. I don't expect you to digest this right now, but here's the key attributes to what sponsored content is so valuable for. Number one, it's going to gather people a lot better. It outperforms display ads a lot better. The click-through ratio is higher on it. You'll even see that the read and retention ratio and results on the headlines are far greater than what display ads are, even though people don't click on them. You're retaining people better. Statistically, this unit's going to do a better job of retaining somebody on our site or our competitor sites that are running this than on your landing page. And you think about that, and you guys may be making this mistake. If you run a Facebook post or you're doing a display ad and somebody clicks and they come to your site, what are they getting? Are you welcoming them, or are you saying, hey, we do torque converters, pick your make, model, and year, and we'll talk about the product. You have to welcome these people. You promised them something, and once they got there, you need to welcome and talk to those people and not just stand there like a cold lobby at the front of your business. Bring them in and tell them something and tell them a little bit about you. Show them some of your customers and why people are there and why they've chosen your product. So you're retaining people. Statistically, they're staying on those native pages much better than the landing pages of the client sites. And then lastly, you're delivering a message better. You're not standing there trying to sell me a car. You're sitting down and you're telling me about variable valve train geometry and why that works so well. Bring me in, give me some education, give me some benefit instead of just telling me to buy your product. And that's it.
All right, great job, Jeff. I know that there's been so much changes going on, and just like with Luanne and the rest of these guys, if you have any further questions that you would like to ask of Jeff, we don't have anybody behind us, so they'll be available. I'm not sure how long, but I'm sure you'll try to work them in. And now we're going to hear from a tag team, pretty awesome tag team. Jeff Lee, Digital Marketing Director for Martin & Company, and Chad Reynolds. They're going to talk about digital and social. Come on up, guys.
Ooh, you have the clicker.
I do have the clicker. Thank you, guys. We're going to start with a little bit of history of the last 30 years of the automobile and the digital world that we're now in. So around 1984, one of my favorites, the Buick Grand National, came out with turbocharger and sequential fuel injection. Around the same time, the Macintosh came out. Shortly after that, the Ford EFI 5.0 Mustang. AOL came out in 1989, and the Monte Carlo SS in 1988 was the last U.S. performance car to use a carburetor.
In the 90s, GM's LS1 engine, which has become the staple for modern performance, came out. People started playing video games about cars, which started changing what kind of cars they wanted, and racing junk, where a lot of us buy parts, became available. In addition, between eBay and Craigslist and Google, as well as sites like Napster, we weren't only finding ways to buy parts even easier, but also music and other entertainment.
In the 2000s, we had the rise of social media as we know it. We've had the iPod, we had YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, the iPhone, Magento, the e-commerce platform. The Subaru WRX and the Nissan GTR debuted largely as a result of Gran Turismo featuring those cars in the game, or Fast and the Furious featuring the Skyline. And also Bang Shift, aka Car Junkie Daily, aka Freiburger's Junkyard, one of the best sites on the internet, according to this guy and some of us here, debuted as well.
Fast forward to the 2010s, and who would have thought that at this point we've got sports cars that people are buying that not only make no noise, but burn no gasoline. In addition, folks are using iPads and mobile devices, like Stacey mentioned, for between 40 and 70% of their online activity. That either means we're spending a lot of time in the bathroom, or we're doing a lot more than texting while driving.
So, social media is the new customer service. It's a low-friction communication. Everybody's using it now. We like to use it as a relationship tool. So here we have an example of Nissan. It's a really neat post about like father, like son, the old Z and the new Z. And within the comments of this post, a customer complained. So they complained about having repairs and 2 to 3 visits to complete their repairs. Nissan immediately addressed this and really made the customer feel better. And they did it publicly, so they're not trying to trick anybody. Everybody can see what they're doing, and it brings legitimacy to your company and its goodwill.
It allows you to take the opportunity to go, you know what? We screwed up, but we can fix this, and you're going to look better for it.
Yeah, and you can turn a negative into a positive. Here we have an example of somebody on Reddit ordered a fat head of Tom Brady, and they ended up getting a fat head of Tim Tebow. They posted it on Reddit, got thousands of upvotes. So Fathead heard about it, decided to go on Reddit, responded, and said, hey, 25% off NFL Fatheads with the code NFLOOPS. And I bet they had a really good day that day selling Fatheads online, and they made fun of their mistake, and they lived to sell another day. So some of this, what we like to say is don't sell all the time. Be silly. Have fun. This is a fun thing, like Zan said in the beginning. If you sell all the time, people are going to try to tune you out. Regardless of how big your company gets, they're always buying from you. They like to think of their companies and brands as a person or somebody that they can relate to. So act accordingly.
Yeah, each of these companies, you started your company, so your first customers know you. So be you. If you're going to be the face of your company, then do that online.
Absolutely. People buy from people they identify with, for sure.
Like
And
those
some
two
people
idiots.
identify with that.
I don't know who that guy is.
All right, so another thing we do is showcase your customers. In this case, Nissan, another Nissan post, they posted a photo of a customer's old Z car, which that's a really nice picture too, by the way. That their customer posted earlier to their page saying, hey, check out my Z car, I love it, and all that. They gave them credit, and guess what? That person is going to share that with their friends and say, hey, check it out. Nissan shared me on their official Facebook page, which has millions of people. And in the comments, other people shared even more Z cars. So it just keeps on going and more goodwill.
You become a brand ambassador when the company that you've bought a part from takes that part that's on your car or your motorcycle or whatever and makes you look like a rock star. You're going to spread the word, and you're advertising then for that company. So take advantage. You can do that. You can make your customer feel like they got way more than they paid for, and they're going to tell the world.
Yes, this builds loyalty, it builds goodwill, as we said, and it also like you said, loyalty and what Jeff was talking about, the path to purchase. They bought a Z car 30, 40 years ago, and they're still looking at the new ones that Nissan's coming out with and buying those as well.
When you're advertising online, we've talked about social media, we've looked at where the trends have gone, and now you've stepped up and you've called me and you've said, Chad, I want to advertise with you on bangshift.com. There's a couple of things that you have to remember. The key things to doing good banner ads, keep them clean. You need to know what your message is that you're trying to put out there. It needs to be a strong message. It needs to be strong for branding. For example, let's say that you make 10 different intake manifolds for 10 different applications. If your ad is only for one of those and it is specifically for one application, you may entice that one customer, but the rest of them may not pay attention. So if you're going to focus on a particular product, make sure you're also strongly branding your company and letting people know that there are other applications out there. And most importantly, don't let your ads get stale. It's the number one complaint I have to the companies that do sponsor Bang Shift is the companies that are lax in rotating their ads. You need to be rotating your ads every 60 to 90 days, and that's a minimum. If you don't do that, it's the same as if you read a magazine 10 times, you're going to see less and less pages of the magazine each time because you've gotten used to seeing them. So if people get used to seeing the ad, they're going to stop seeing it altogether.
It's called banner blindness in the industry. So target like a sniper. So I like to say most of you are probably using Google and Facebook. There are companies like Outbrain and Taboola that are doing some of the native advertising, or you do content, sort of like AdWords for content. You do the content and then you create your own campaign driving people to that piece of content based on browsing habits with cookies on websites. And you go to places like ESPN.com. You're targeting people that have maybe searched for your brand or things that you do, but you're catching them where they are. They're on Facebook, they're on Google, they're on ESPN.com or CNN.com or whatever. So you target your customers, and something I like to do too is also target competitors. So if you know somebody likes your competitor's Facebook page, target that person. For example, I don't know if some of you guys went to the $1 a day Facebook thing yesterday. Dennis is a good friend of mine, and I do some of his tactics, but we've actually targeted industry past the enthusiast industry. So we have a company called NitroPlate that's one of our clients, and we target enthusiasts, and we also target employees at different companies. So I created, say, a Facebook ad about NitroPlate to employees in certain companies in engineering roles, And we actually got a inquiry, and I think it resulted in an actual contract with Ford via a NitroPlate Facebook post and ad that was seen by a Ford employee engineer that actually followed through and said, hey, I'm interested in coding this part, and I see that you do this application. So that's an example of how you can target. I know Dennis did the more negative, a guy had a real bad problem with his Toyota dealership, and so he created a blog post, and then he targeted executives at Toyota in Japan with it, and then all of a sudden the dealership was like, hey man, why are Toyota people from Japan calling me at the dealership? So
It's powerful,
you
is
can
the point.
do that kind of stuff. You can get very granular and very fine-tuned on that. So I can't go into all that right now, but it's definitely something cool that you can experiment with and not spend a ton of money doing it.
One of the other things that you have to remember when you're doing an ad campaign, as it has traditionally been called, is that you've got to have a commitment to it. If you don't help any media outlet, whether it's me or it's television or it's print media or anything else, if you don't help with your content and getting it out there on the pages of a site or on television or in the magazines, then you're leaving it up to me, the editor, to determine what your message is going to be for your company. So if you wouldn't go to somebody on the street and have them give your marketing message, then why are you doing it to anybody else? It's your company, you need to be committed to it. So you have to make sure that you're communicating with editorial staff and that you're pushing for content and that you're being smart about that content. It isn't always selling, it has to be education as well, but if you're not engaged, then no editorial staff is going to be either. And this is a complete package. It's not one thing. There is no magic. You've got to do it all. And it sounds like a daunting task when there's only 2 or 3 of you in a company, or for some of you 1, but you can't afford not to do it. So get your teenager to do your social media, get your wife to help you with your, content. Whatever you've got to do, you have to do it or you're not going to be successful.
And also when dealing with editorial content, as a search engine guy, I always want you to get the relevant link back to your site. Make sure they link back to your site, because every link coming back to you is good for the Google juice.
And it's not just a link back to your site, not just xyz.com. If that content is about a trailer hitch that you happen to sell, it needs to go there. Those people are interested in that specific, so get there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Chad. You guys are always sharing terrific information, and I love hearing it all the time. All right, so I'm very excited to ask Marla Moore to come up and just share a little bit about a case study of how content marketing has worked for her and her company.
Hello, everyone. Well, I'm Marla Moore, and I'm the marketing director for Coker Group, which is, of course, is what Zan told you. What you might not know about Coker Group is we actually own 10 different companies. So I'm the marketing director for 10 companies, not just one. And I get to integrate information from all those different companies. So it really makes for a fun and fast and furious job. Let's see. There we go. How many people in here know Corky Coker? Anybody ever heard of him? Well, that makes my job as a content marketer a much easier job, because I have somebody who's the leader and the CEO of our company that's so dynamic. When he wakes up, content just happens.
Understand that you do have that power. Talk to those media partners about your editorial. For heaven's sakes, upgrade your website to make sure it's mobile responsive. You've got to have a news or blog section, because if you're writing a bunch of content, you figure out what your content strategy is, and you don't have a place for people to find it quickly and readily on your website, you're missing the boat. You got to craft and post meaningful content and start harnessing the power of today's communication tools.
All my eggs in one basket, or just keep diversifying. It's a very difficult thing. I don't know if you have any more advice for that.
I have something for that. That is the biggest problem today, and it's really what Zen kicked off with. The options are really suffocating almost. There's so much. And the tough thing is, it's not all measurable. there may be fantastic things out there for you to do that you can't really measure it all the way out. It really, in my opinion, it really goes back to you knowing how your customers are finding you and adjusting accordingly. It's easy for me just to say, hey, that's what you got to do, but you'll find that if you really don't think about yourself, really think about how those guys, your top 3 profiles that people find you, and then plan accordingly after that, and start thinking about it, and it will eventually start. It's almost like a sculpture. You'll start pecking it all out, and start to make sense.
I have something to add to that. I agree with Jeff. And there are so many ways to advertise, and with rare exception, they overlap each other all over the place.
Yeah.
So sometimes it makes it hard to determine which ones are the big boys, okay, so to speak. So like he said, if you can figure out which ones are the main ones, so you don't get caught up in the stuff that's bleeding over, when you don't have a lot of resources to spend, or you don't have, and don't get me wrong, your time is a resource, and when you're only a small company, that's a tough deal. It is. You really got to look at it from the eyes of your consumer, you know?
Here's a great tip on that too. It makes sense to go out and hire an agency or somebody professional to help you with that, but if you can't make that step to pay somebody that retainer and that margin, find a young, very passionate, enthusiastic person that you can leverage, somebody that wants to be there working and banging out and doing a good job for you. However, there's a law of diminishing return with those people. The more passionate and the more close they are to everything, the more jaded and often the more biased they'll get to how they buy and do things. And so you need to sit
And
back.
Luanne has something to add too.
Yeah, I wanted to say, with regards to the content marketing and keywords that describe your products, when you have an image out there, or you have a video out there, or a PDF, Google cannot read those. They can't read terms inside a video. They cannot see what the picture is. So they have no clue what it is. So you have to name that stuff, what your parts are. This is the Lear 100 XL truck cap image X. That rather than, DSX 3562 means nothing to Google. So it's really smart to name this stuff, what your keywords are, because that's how Google pulls it up.
And we could do a whole session on SEO best practices or advertising best practices, but we kind of wanted to dabble in all the different things. So
She's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you that I have measured changes in the total traffic on our website based on how we name photos.
Yep.
We test that. The beauty of the website is that I can test that stuff in literally a matter of hours, whether it's working, and I can do a comparison quite literally to groups of photos in the same photo gallery and name them differently. And that will change things. So it can be very, very dramatic. And all of that is overwhelming. I will tell you one other quick thing that I know a guy who has a company that's a small company, and in order to get some help on some marketing ideas, he went to the local community college and went to a marketing class that they were holding there, not to enroll in the class, but to ask the instructor, who was a local industry professional, for some help. And they put forth his challenge of marketing his business to the class, and it became a project for the class. And they did several marketing strategies for him. It was a really cool deal. And given the fact that our education...
He would list our websites to Google, episode 1, segment 3. Nobody watched it. They didn't know what the heck it was.
Nobody searches for them.
No, well, it wouldn't even come up on Google. And so they went in and they changed it. It's like chopping a top, boom, 3 million hits. Because people were searching for chopping a top. They weren't searching for episode 2. They didn't know what the heck. So that's really important to identify that. And to go back to one of your questions, you said, do I put my eggs in one basket? Do not put your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying here. The basket is full now. You have to really choose how you want to do it, but we all work together.